Hello, John Talley and Garrett Sifford here, coming live to you from the Partzilla studios. Welcome to what hopefully is a long weekend for some of you, although we're going to be working.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
It
guys.
is Labor Day.
Yeah. So we're going to spend a few minutes this afternoon answering a few questions. We'll wait a little bit for some of them to start pouring in. So whatever you may have that you can't figure out, go ahead and send it in, and we'll see if we can't get it figured out for you, or at least point you in the right direction. And it looks like there's one already coming from Carl, and he's asking me, are there other parts compatible for a Honda Rune? Well, what exactly are you looking for here? Because that's basically a really well repackaged Honda Goldwing hiding under all that fantastic bodywork. And I took a look over on the Partzilla site, and we've got it listed as an NRX 1800, depending on which year you're looking at. So what are you looking for? Chances are we probably have it. So if you would send us another message, tell us what specific part you're looking for, and we'll see if we can help you out on that.
All right, let's see. I got a question from, I'm not really sure how to pronounce this.
Radislav.
It says, hi, I have a Yamaha Virago XV125 motorcycle from 1998. And it makes weird noises when idling. Sounds like the shaft is clinking. What can it be? Bearing? Thanks for the help, sincerely. So the engine, if the engine's running and you still hear a clinking sound, it could be, I can't remember if that particular model has a cam chain tensioner. Sometimes those can go out and cause a clinking noise. Or it could be something in your rotating assembly, like your crank, your crank bearing or your rod bearings. That would probably be your first place to check. And another thing you can do is drop the oil and see if you have any shavings in the oil. That's usually a good indicator if you have a blown bearing somewhere in the system.
All right, sounds plausible to me. Let's head over to Glenn Rawson. I have a 2013 Yamaha Rancher that runs great until I go over about half a mile. It sounds familiar, doesn't it, Garrett? It sputters and will eventually stop completely. It kind of feels like it's overheating, but not always. It will usually start right back up and idle, but will die if I give it any throttle. Do you have any thoughts? Yes, we do. And this actually came up a couple of weeks ago whenever you were in here with me. You're going to think I'm kidding, but check your valve and your hose for the tank vent system. If either one of those are clogged up, in Southwest Georgia, we have these little things called dirt daubers, and they love to fill those little hoses with mud, and then it won't let your gas tank breathe, and I bet you that's what's happening. So see if I'm right. Loosen up the gas cap just a little bit and ride it for the same amount of time and see if it runs like it's supposed to. If that's the case, it's either that check valve inside of the gas cap itself, or you've got a stopped up line. So take a look at that, and then let us know if we're right or not.
All right, let's see. Next question is from David. It says, any tips on making a SeaDoo 130 go faster? Let's see. As far as the only thing I could recommend is maybe to change your impeller, go to a different pitch that gives you more, but you can only get one or the other. You can only get more acceleration or more top end speed. Shy of that, the only thing you can really do is internal engine modifications, like bore and stroke it out, up the compression. If it's a carbureted unit, you may be able to jet it and get a little bit more power. If it's fuel injected, you'll have to go with a tuner and such like that. But just the first thing I could say is swap out your impeller for a different pitch.
All right, John's throwing in a question on a new one, or a new-ish one. I have a 2019 Suzuki Hayabusa. Just ordered a lot of parts, and I'm finishing rebuilding it. What went wrong? One part I can't seem to find is the sort of spool that comes out of the side fairing behind where the seat is, right behind the turn signals. This must have been a crash. I hope this helps. The spool.
Sounds like maybe what do they call them? Engine guards, like the sliders, frame sliders.
That could be.
That could be that.
Are you referring to a slider? Because if that's the case, that's actually an aftermarket piece that somebody added. So you're not going to find that on the OEM drawing or the OEM exploded diagrams. So that's
about the only thing I can think would look like a spool, because the majority of them are spool looking.
Yeah. Well, guys, referring to my friends down in Florida, if y'all would go pick out one for John on our site and maybe direct him to it, if that in fact is what he's looking for. I'm betting it probably is, because that's the part that gets damaged, because it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to hit that protrusion and damage it versus tearing up your fairing. So,
A worthly purchase too.
No doubt.
All right, let's see. Got a message from Brian. Says, can you edit the database to include the color of products? I had a problem when ordering replacement parts for my CB500F. The type style did not help.
Oh, I know what he's talking about.
Yeah,
Those
the color codes.
They mean nothing.
Yeah.
They have no they have no connection with the actual color.
They don't. It's model specific. Like you just search your model, or do a search on your color code for your exact year and model, and then that's about the only way I know of to find colors.
And it's still going to list all of them in there.
It's quite the task.
No doubt.
Unfortunately.
If you're unsure if a CXY or whatever the extension is on it, why don't you give us a call, let us do the research for that particular one so we can tell you, hey, that's the green or the red or the yellow or whatever the color may be. So at that point, just give us a call, because we'll invest the time to make sure it's right instead of shipping parts back and forth that you potentially can't use. That's what we're here for, so give us a call.
And I say it's a pain because I used to be a call center tech, and I did calls like that all day long about helping find color codes. So we will help you. Just give us a shout.
What else do we have here? Mr. Filson is asking, I have an 06 1000, my STA valve, I would assume, is stuck. Is there anyone that can replace the STA rather than buying a new whole throttle body? With something like that, I would take it to a place that has one of those immersion tanks.
Ultrasonic.
An ultrasonic. Yeah. If it's really that gummed up, just putting it in a regular carb cleaner is probably not going to do it. And an ultrasonic, it can work its way into all those joints and probably break it loose. I would say find a shop that has one and then give that a shot.
All right, let's see. Okay, it's from Richard. It says, is it normal to get oil residue in your intake box on a 2005 Kawasaki Brute Force 750? Depending on the amount of oil. If it's a light coat inside, that's usually the engine recirculating from the PCV, like out of the intake. So if you get any blow by in the crankcase, it'll actually dump it into the intake, and then the engine just basically burns it off. Like I said, it depends on how much oil. If you've got a lot of oil in there,
that's a problem.
That's a problem.
You're getting too much blow by.
You get too much blow by. But that is normal, depending on the amount of oil that is.
All right, John came back to us with the Hayabusa question. It's not a slider, it's a small part that comes out by the trunk. I'm sorry, but it's...
Oh, I know what he's talking about.
I really have to take this. Back in a second, guys.
Talking about the...
This John.
Helmet holder. That could be what you're talking about there.
How's it going?
That's
Let
usually
me
like
turn
a
off my mic.
aluminum colored spindle that you can clip your helmet rings into. That could be what you're talking about. Let's see. I'll go check out my questions. Let's see. All right, it says, what if my KFX 450R is diagnosing an error code 41 fuel injector malfunction and my starter will not work, and if I cross my solenoid over, the starter will work slowly and my starter cable will smoke? It's really, if you're having, like, you said it'll turn over slowly, but is the engine not starting at all completely, or it runs and you get that error code and you just happen to check, find out what the code was, but does the unit run? That's actually my first question. So get back to me on that, and we can give you a hand. Let's see.
Sorry to abandon you.
No, it's fine. I can handle my own.
We've been so busy, we're actually having to rent some warehouse space because we're getting ready to renovate one, and we got to have it now. So that was that call. So sorry about that, guys, but working hard for you.
Yes.
Where did we leave off?
Okay, Nasham has replied back, I think, to your STVA question.
Mm-hmm.
It says, does the secondary throttle valve actuator work with the fast idle screw by chance?
That I don't know.
I think it's electronically driven.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought that was a setting you had to do straight in the brain.
Straight in the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something you have to access with the Suzuki software. So that's not something you're going to be able to do just sitting at home. So that you'll have to go to the dealership and let them plug into it.
Yeah, because they're finicky. Even the diagnostic software, usually you have to have a username and password to even access it. And usually only dealers have those. So
looks like our friends down in Partzilla found that thing for John on his Hayabusa.
And I think it's the helmet strap holder. I didn't even think about that. I was thinking towards the front of the motorcycle though, not towards the rear. Says, good evening, from Junior. Says, good evening, guys. Just wanted to say thank you for the advice a few weeks ago with my clutch switch from the Suzuki Gixxer 1000 K7. Turning it from the UK again, not missed an episode yet. Q&A are awesome. Glad we're here for you, guy.
That's we're here to help, and thanks for getting back in touch with us and letting us know that we hit it. I like that. All right, Ken's asking me, what's the best way to get a stripped hex bolt out of a gearbox on the rear end of a 2013 Yamaha Grizzly 550? It's about time to change the gear oil. All right, there's a couple of different techniques for this, and it's a little bit barbaric, but what I have done in the past is either, if it's a metric 6, then I would go to a standard, what is it, 5/16?
Yeah, just basically go up one size.
Go up one size and just hammer it in there with a bit that you do not care about because it's going to damage it. And typically that or going to a Torx type bit that's a little bit larger, a bigger Torx, driving it in there and basically creating a new surface for it to grab on. Yeah. And then when you actually get it driven in there, use an impact like a screwdriver to pop it loose. And hopefully the combination of those two will get it out of there for you.
And they also make some easy outs too that are kind of cylindrical, and they have little spirals on them. You can tap them into place. I've used those to get out bolts before. And if all that fails, another thing you can try, this is really barbaric, but break out your Dremel tool and grind you a flat spot in the bolt, and then go with a really large flathead screw on that impact driver and try that.
One more. Cut a notch in it to the outside, and then use a chisel and try to turn it that way.
Or you can just throw it in the trash.
Yeah, that would be what
I'm gonna do sometimes.
That would be what Evan does, and we can't do that.
If you ever see a mechanic at a bench with his tap and die set out, run.
Yeah.
Don't talk to him because he's really mad.
It's not a good day.
Let's see.
What else we have here? Well, it's your turn. Go for it.
All right, let's see. Just want to say, all right, what's the best way? Okay, it says my YFZ 450 bogs out when I give it full throttle. First thing I would think is check your fuel system. It kind of tells me that it's bogging out because the carb may be gummed up by chance. It could, now is it sputtering, or is it just or is it spitting and sputtering as you go? Because it could be something, it could be a faulty spark plug. May need to change the plug. There's a couple of different things. I just need a little bit more information about when you say it bogs.
It sounds like he's having that problem with the transition from just idle circuit to wide open throttle. It's just not wanting to make that transition. I'd be curious if anybody been in the carburetor before, and if you've done anything like an aftermarket exhaust or intake or anything like that. If that's the case, you need to open up your air-fuel ratio by about a half a turn if it has that particular setting on the carburetor, and if not, maybe go up a size on the jet, because it's not getting enough fuel to get it going to match the air coming in and then falling on its face.
And if I remember correctly, the old school method of tuning those carburetors is basically turn up your idle speed needle to where their engine's revving up, probably around 2,500 to 3,000, and then slowly adjust your idle mixture screw until it starts to spit and sputter, and then barely back it off. And 9 times out of 10, that's where the carburetor wants to be at.
All right, T-Money's asking us, what's better on a 2018 Honda Rancher 420 that is smoking, a top-end rebuild or a whole engine rebuild? Well, if it's smoking, it's just going to be your top end, And I'd be curious, why would it already be smoking, it being a 2018? That's not that old. Did somebody not maintain it like they were supposed to, or maybe intake some water somewhere?
Did you turn it into a submarine?
Yeah, a U-boat.
U-boat.
U-boat commander. No, we don't want to make fun of this guy. Come on.
No, not at all.
But just doing a top end will be fine. I mean, chances are I'm going to bet probably on rings. Probably maybe, yeah, I think it ingested some either dust or water or whatever.
Yeah, that new.
More than likely. But a top end's going to address that. You put in a one size over piston with new rings, go ahead and put in new valves, have the valves seated in with the correct stuff, and that ought to do it. Not that tough to do. We've done a Rancher 350, but I've never done a 420 on camera.
They're really similar.
But all the parts are actually over here.
Just gotta get
I doubt you want to wait on me, but eventually we are going to do a top end on a 420. That is smoking, and it needs a little help as well.
Well, there is one other thing you can check too. You can try, and of course it's a little work, you could try disconnecting the header pipe and looking to see if there's actually oil inside of the pipe itself. That usually means you've got one of your seals is leaking. Although with that new, it's probably not going to be a leaking seal, more than likely something in your bottom end or top end. I get them mixed up between automotive and
rings versus valves.
Yeah, and then on your intake side, you can pull it, and if you've got oil in either one of those spots, that's generally a valve seal issue, leakage.
He could actually be getting enough blow by to be spitting it back up into the intake from the crankcase vent. So. At any rate, your top end quote needs to be redone. My bet is on the rings. When you get into it, let us know, because I'll be curious, as always. All right, Ira's asking us, he just bought a KX450 of 2011. It runs good, but I've noticed it has a ticking noise on the top of the head. Could it be loose rocker arms? That's not so much rocker arms on the KX450, though. I think they're... that's the tappet setup.
Yeah, the shim, bucket over shim.
Bucket over shim. Yeah. Long story short, yes, you're going to need to go in and adjust the valves on it or check the clearance on them, because chances are she's loosened up and you're going to need to address it. So his first order of business is to order up a service manual for that.
Yes, definitely service manual, because only that's going to be able to tell you, for one, how to do the procedure, and two, which shims are required and everything. Let's see, it says, from T-Money again, it says, what better on a 2018 Honda Rancher for my top end rebuild? Okay, I'm wrong, read the same one over again.
Come on down.
Let's see, from Tara says, do you guys offer an OEM secondary or primary for 2003 Kawasaki Prairie 650? I can't seem to find one on the website.
So you talking about the clutch
system? I believe so.
Yeah, I would say yes, definitely.
We would definitely, one of our helpers in Florida could definitely help you out with that.
Because if you're talking about
2003.
Yeah, that's plenty new enough for something like that.
Unless it says no longer available in the listing.
I kind of doubt it.
I doubt it too. Let's see.
What else do we have here?
I think it's Radislav again.
Yeah, he's saying, I have an even smaller problem with the carburetor. The main computer just jumped. The main chip that was in my engine is a 110, but went to service. It was told there should be, jet. It was a 110, and there should be a 77.8. Huh. Yeah. Okay, well, it sounds like it may be getting too much fuel, making it fall down, the opposite of what I was thinking.
Unless it's got an aftermarket exhaust system and a intake on it. If it's bone stock, if that's what's in it and it should be a 78, then yeah, you're getting way too much fuel.
Yeah, I'd say back off on the air fuel screw, then a half turn.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, we're being told to keep reading.
Okay. Only went on half gas. Everything in the carburetor is otherwise okay. Do you know what it can be? Well, thank you. Let's see. I'm trying to remember. Just a second. Sorry.
What you got?
No, you said it's only a half gas. I'm trying to remember the problem again. I'm reading up at the first one.
Saying it wouldn't transition, I believe.
Transition?
We'll come back to that one.
I'm sorry, guys.
there's so many entries we're having to jump back and forth.
Yeah.
Give us a little while on that one to come up with an answer, and then
Making weird noises when idling. Okay. Unless it's backfiring through the carburetor, which would be a fuel-related issue. Let's see.
All right, John had one more question for us. Just one more question. Bike is just about done, about to put on fairings. When I had my accident, the bike slid only on the right side and one of the fairing bolts ground down. How can I remove that now that it's ground down into the screw hole? The only thing I can think of is using a drill bit. How would you be able to do this without doing too much damage to the screw hole? All right, there's a couple of different ways. One, you can use an easy out. There shouldn't be any stress on it or any type of pressure trying to get it out. But you are dealing with stainless steel, I would bet.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the
fairing bolts are.
Yep, that's going to be the kicker on this. If that is unsuccessful, if you know somebody with just an average size welder, take a stainless steel nut, and you have to make sure that you've got stainless steel rod coming through the trigger itself, and tack weld a bolt on the end of it, and then you can attach to that with just the regular socket and back it out. But one of those two ways is about the only ways I know how to do it.
Yeah, and hopefully it's a big enough bolt to a big enough fairing screw to actually weld something.
Well, I'm thinking it's going to be one of those wide heads.
Yeah.
So, and it's obviously been ground down enough. So.
Yeah, as long as if he's just talking about the actual Allen keyway is ground down, as long as you still got the face of the bolt, he should be good.
Yeah, if he put like an 8mm stainless nut, just zap it right in the middle, then back it out.
Let's see. Another question from John. It says, just another question. Bike is just about done.
I just did that one.
Oh, sorry.
Do we need? Right. Well, we can't because of COVID. We need to share a computer going for one screen.
It says, from RCA, it says, can I use synthetic oil in a DCT 2020 Honda Goldwing? Concern is the solenoids, clutches, etc. As long as the oil you're using is designed for a wet clutch system.
Oh, be careful with that one, though. Be careful with that one. You want to make sure it's without moly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's the real. Moly, that's the real kicker, because I know that GN4 or the Honda oils, they've got the silver bottle and the gold bottle, and you do not use the silver one because that has moly in it. So whichever oil you use, synthetic's fine. Just make sure it doesn't have molybdenum in it. So that's the only caveat to throw in there. Oh, Ken just came back and he says, thanks guys, went and did what you said and worked like a champ, stripped head on hex bolt. So it backed it out. Cool.
It says, it's from Nishan, it says, last question, I have a Power Commander 5 install on an M4 exhaust. Will removing the baffle free up more horses? On the M4, I think that's just going to give you a louder pipe. I think depending on how restricted the baffle is, I would say you're not going to get much power gain by removing the baffle. It's usually just a noise thing. But that's what I've experienced. I could be wrong.
Well,
what do you think, John?
The real trick with an exhaust system, you don't want it completely opened up because you want a little bit of back pressure to enhance scavenging from cylinder to cylinder, believe it or not. So, I mean, there's an optimal balance that these guys, they figure out at these performance exhaust system manufacturers, and that's what they're aiming for. Otherwise, there wouldn't be anything in there. They'd just be, straight out.
Yeah, especially in the power sports industry. They got them things tuned to a fairly well. Let's see.
What else do we have here? Oh, we should know this one. A Polaris RZR 170cc. Carb is clean, but fuel won't get into the carb. Could the float roll be sticking and not allow the fuel to enter? I remember something about this when units would sit up for so long over at PSP.
Would gum up.
They would gum up.
Yeah, just the fuel setting in the carburetor would gum it up.
Yep. But it seems like that just cleaning it out wouldn't fix it either. You actually had to go to that little lift pump that they had on the RZR 170.
Yes, there's a secondary pump. Can't remember where it's at, but that will gum up too and not allow fuel to even get to the carburetor.
Now just start following your fuel lines, and you're going to find I think it's a vacuum actuated pump that's in line in between the tank and the carburetor itself. Make sure you get to that one. Otherwise, it's never going to work out for you if the fuel has been sitting in the machine for that long, which it sounds like it probably has.
Yeah.
It's a common story. I mean, somebody gets a new one for Christmas, and then they don't drive it for 4 or 5 or 8 months.
Especially the parents, try to get it before early on, and it sits.
Yep.
So. Better now. I gave my children got a dead fish for Christmas by accident. So.
I don't know
Didn't make it through the night.
I don't know if I'd share that, Garrett. Oh boy.
Let's see from Chase Robinson, on the typical Honda, how would you set the valves or values on a used ATV? I'm not really sure exactly what you're meaning by values.
I think he's talking about how much it's to sell for on a used one.
Oh, just value. Okay.
Yeah. The one I would run to, and that we base it off of at the dealership, is Kelly Blue Book. So they're usually pretty accurate, and that's what they base it off on the MPA auctions. Yeah, okay. Is Kelly Blue Book value. They're more catered or more directed toward the power sports market versus something like an NAPA.
Okay.
So Kelly Blue Book, that would be where I go, and they have a pretty substantial website where you can drill down to your exact year, make, and model.
I learned something today.
We can't have that.
Yeah, can't have that. It's unacceptable. No. Let's see. This from Guam. This one's addressed to you. I can read it unless you want to.
No, go for it.
It says, "Hi John, nice to see you. I installed aftermarket on my MT10. He installed an aftermarket MT10 exhaust system. For that, it's necessary to add a power commander. Yes, I would think it's very important to add a power commander. Anytime you add exhaust or air, like intake or exhaust, you usually always want to supplement that with some type of fuel management system, because what will happen is it'll actually lean the engine out in most cases."
Well, Garrett's right on that. You're going to get the optimal amount of power out of it if you go ahead and tune it with a power commander. However, with most of your programmable fuel injection systems, the system itself can actually compensate, because it can compensate and adapt within plus or minus 5% to get it back in line, and it does that providing it has an O2 sensor somewhere in line, which I'm betting it probably does on the MT10.
Yeah.
So what I would do to see if it's in the ballpark after you put a few miles on it, go ahead and do what I call a plug read. So just go ahead and run it fairly hard, bring it back in, pull your plugs, and then do a read. If it's looking really white around the base of the spark plug metal itself, you're probably running a little too lean, and you need to go ahead and get that power commander to richen it back up. If it's a nice golden brown, you're in there, and I'd say roll with it. But take a look at that first before you drop the money on a power commander, although they make a great product. All right, Garrett, guess what? There went 30 minutes.
Wow, that's quick.
Don't tempt me, I'm not going to say it.
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, we just want to say thank you for coming in once again and giving us a lot of great questions. And if we missed anything, believe me, we do go back, and sometimes we'll lead off with those at the beginning of next week's live stream. Once again, just want to say thanks for dropping in. Y'all have a great Labor Day weekend. Stay safe out there, and God willing, we will see you next Friday at 3 o'clock. Y'all enjoy.